and welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 34, where we're going to take a look at VLC audio and video playback for live streaming. This is a really fantastic free application. You're probably familiar with it already, but I've developed something with Companion and a Stream Deck so that you can have sort of VTR type control when you're doing a live stream. If you are joining us from Instagram today, I hope you can jump over to YouTube, and for those on YouTube, go check out my Instagram page at David Joshua Ford. We're doing a little test stream with the new YoloLiv Instream, so make sure you go and check out that, and we'll have that running in the background. I just want to have a test as we move on and test that product in weeks to come. But to start with today, let's take a look at the VLC Feature Overview. And if you want to, you can follow along. davidjoshuaford.com/production/VLC-install is where you'll find the full instructions that you'll get to install VLC and Companion. And we're going to run through that today so that you can use that as a guide. So make sure you visit that website as we work our way through. So on my website, you'll find this blog post here. And what we've got is a pre-configured profile that I've built. It's just a one-page profile that you can purchase and download, and that'll help support this channel. Or if you just want to sort of build your own version of it, we're going to show you how to install it today and to customize it. So these are some of the features that we have in this console. Let's see, we've got a time of day clock. We've got a time elapsed and a countdown. We've got some, I can't quite see from here, loop one, loop all, and then pushing video to full screen under the buttons here, so there's some action in there. We've got the scanning 10 seconds forwards and backwards, or 1 second forward and backwards. I've got an auto in and an auto out, so these are actually just simulate a Hyperdeck-like control, so that you can have, when you switch to the whatever program the VLC is in, that input, it will start the video playback automatically, and at the end it'll crossfade back to something that's in preview monitor. Got some audio controls in here, so you can set the VLC volume itself to 0 or 100, or you can go up and down by 5, or if you long press for a quarter of a second, it's gonna hit it to 50% or 85% volume. So that will help with audio ducking if you're trying to like talk over the top of something. We've got previous and next, and then down here we've got 10 presets for videos that have been loaded in there. So you can see the first ones I've got are the music that was actually playing at the start of this live stream. So it doesn't just have to be for video playback. I use this all the time for audio, and that's what kind of runs the audio in at the beginning of my live stream. And it also means that I can run video onto the one. So if you're running like a Mac or a Windows PC HDMI desktop view for a live stream, you can overtake that with the VLC picture so that you could minimize the number of connections that you've got. For example, maybe if you've got like an ATEM Mini and you've only got 4 inputs, and so you want to use 3 cameras and 1 desktop, you could have the desktop display and the VLC on the same connection there. All right, so, and then we got there's a cue button here, which is going to cue the next one and pause it at the first frame. We've got to stop, play. If you long press the play, it's going to actually hit stop. So you could copy this play button elsewhere in your profile if you want to have a shortcut to just quickly play or stop playing. And if you long press, it'll hit stop. And the advantage of hitting stop on a long press is that it'll actually clear the screen. So what you're seeing here in this super source where I have the desktop display there, that is going to sort of come into focus is the desktop. If you long press the playback number, then it is actually going to delete that from the device. I've got some VLC audio to the ATEM. So for example, I have my computer's HDMI connected into input 7 of my ATEM, and this here is showing me that the audio is on, or if I press it, I can turn it off. If I long press it, it's going to be audio follows video. So it won't have any audio coming through until that is put to line to program. And then we've got an auto and a cut button, which are for ATEM controls so that you can quickly cut through on that. So what's next? Let's take a look at where you're going to get this. So you're going to download VLC, which is a free application. So if we scroll down here, we can click here, And you can run this pretty much on any computer, Windows, Mac, Mac Silicon, Linux, Android. You can also run it on Raspberry Pi. I've experimented a bit about with that, but one of the things I like about running it on a Mac is it just means that all the files and that are locally on my computer, so I don't have to worry too much about cropping things across the network. And if I want to render out a video somewhere before a show and then just dump it in a playlist, it's very quick and easy to go through on that. All right, next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to download Companion itself. So if we go to, I'll go back here. So on this page, you're going to have installation instructions for Mac and PC. So that's actually a page that you might be familiar with. It's been up for a while in terms of how to install Companion itself. And the first part of this is actually about how to install Companion. I'm not going to go into all of that today because I've done plenty of that. But this is where you would find Companion. Under user bitfocus.io, and there you can get the latest stable version is 2.3.1, which is the best one to run with. And if you do want to experiment with some new features in 2.4, there's a beta. And then probably, I imagine 6 months from now, is going to be version 3 of a Companion coming out. This is also where you can grab Companion satellite. So if you want to run this on a Raspberry Pi, then you can actually download that as a disk image, and it's very easy to flash that straight to an SD card. And then you can put it on a Raspberry Pi, and that can be your Companion engine that is driving this. And I've got a whole another blog post on that on my website if you want to take a look at installing that on a Raspberry Pi. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at importing the DJF profile into Companion. So if you did go through my website and wanted to grab this pre-built console here. Let me just see if I've got an actual shot of this. Be cut. Yeah, so this one. So this is the VLC profile that I've built, and you can get that and download that from my website. If you go to, where are we? Shop VLC under here. This is where you would grab that from, and you'll get a download file, like a configuration file that you can set it up with. So let's take a look at importing this into Companion. So Companion runs in a web browser. So if you've booted up Companion, and then up here in the taskbar, you can show hide window. I'm running version 2.3.1 here, and I've actually set my interface to be not the local address, but the wired address. I usually run this on the wired Ethernet rather than local, so that on my tablet here with HDR graphics, I can see your lovely comments coming in, which is great. And I'll get to those questions after we've been through this tutorial about how to install Companion. But that's what I'm running it on. And then you go launch GUI. And you can see I've got a bunch of things in here. If you're just starting, it's going to be blank. And what you would do is go to this buttons tab, go to import, export, import, and then you would grab the file, which I'm trying to remember where I put that now. Buttons, let me just export it. I'm going to do a little cheat here. Page 30, so you can actually export a page down here. Show in Finder, there we go. And under imports, now if I go back to here, it'll be a configuration file. They'll look a little bit like this. It's going to have a different name on it, but you'll import that. Now, it's going to have a VLC connection. You can create a new connection if you've already got a VLC module in there and you want it to target something separate to what you have set up already, or just go ahead and import it. What you need to do over here is find a blank page. So I have a blank page on 33, and I'm going to go import, and it's going to wipe over the page, and now I have that page. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to jump back to page 30 because that's where I've already installed mine, but that's, you get the idea of how you would go about doing that. So that's how you are going to import that. We'll just scroll down here, and all right, next up, we are going to take we're going to look at a page jump. So quite simply, if you're new to Companion, because we've got this profile, we need to find a way to be able to jump into it and then jump back out to our switching page and that kind of thing. So let's take a look at that. We are going to go back here. This is the X button here. This is going to jump me back out to my menu here, and then I have a VLC button that I've created here. So if you've just got a single page that is being copied in here, this by default is going to be set to page 1. I'm using 99 as my button here, but what I would do is just Command C. So we're going to copy this button, and then we would go to whatever page we want. So maybe page 1, I've got a blank button down here. I'm in the middle of doing a bit of reworking and move around things. So there's a lot of stuff moving around in my profile. But I could paste that in here, and then I would just go back to this action here on the side, and I would go, say to set it to jump to something. So actually, let's rename this first. So I'm going to call this VLC. Maybe we want to change the color, whatever we want, make it blue. And then you can type in VLC, and it'll show you what pages have your name VLC, or you can type in the number. So I'm going to type in 30. Hit enter, and now when I go, so I'm going to go back to my home page, and remember we had this button here, so now when I hit VLC, it's jumped me into this page, and then this X button is going to get me out of that. So now we have a page loop where we can jump in and operate the VLC console, and then we can jump out of it if we need to do other switching. The other thing is, of course, you can, any of these buttons in VLC, you can copy them over to other pages. So if you, as I said before, just want to copy the play button and put that somewhere like I have on my home page, I've got this play button here, that is where that would be copied from. All right. Next up, let's take a look. We're going to look at configuring Companion VLC module, because even though we've imported it, there's some settings that we need to check to make sure that the Companion VLC module is speaking back to the computer where VLC is running on. So over in the Connections tab, we're going to go down to our VLC module, which is here. You can go Edit, and your settings should look a bit like this. Label will be VLC, target IP is 127.0.0.1. Now this IP means it's going to target the local machine. So that's my Mac laptop, which is sitting under the desk here. If I wanted to, I could actually get a whole new laptop, and you could have a remote video operator who is running your videos at a conference, for example, and they would be connected, that laptop would be connected to the network, and you would type in their IP address, and it might look something a bit more like this. So for example, my router is, the first 3 numbers are 192.168.8. And then whatever the device number is. So my Mac here is .138. You would go to your network settings, and you would look up either the Wi-Fi address or the Ethernet address of your laptop, and then you would type that number in this target IP, and then any controls that you do in here on the VLC interface are going to be targeting that machine instead of the local one. So that's something to know about that target IP. The target port is going to be 8080 VLC password. Now I've just set this as a generic password. You can change this as long as you match it up in the VLC application, which will show in a little bit. And then increase time of resolution, yes. Use a dot for empty. I've said no because I don't want that to appear in my playlist. And then I've just reserved 10 clips so that it's using up that kind of much memory. If you need more, you could create more, and you could actually create a whole new page where you copy these buttons and make a secondary page if you've got 20, 30, 40, and I think you can go up to about 100 clip names. So you'll hit save on that, and it should give you a status OK. And then we should be set to connect. Actually, probably won't at this point because we haven't connected the VLC application, but we will get to that now. So now we look at configuring VLC preferences, which is a very important step to make sure that there's no interruptions. So this is basically in the VLC application itself, making sure that it's pushing it to full screen, it's selecting the right screen, and that we're not using any sort of, like your energy saver settings aren't going to put the display to sleep and that kind of thing. So let's jump back over to here, and I'm just going to hide that. We can get rid of this and hide this, and you'll see we have VLC, and this is my playlist here, which you're probably familiar with. You may have used VLC before, What I have is in the media library, this is where I store all of my tracks, because every time you close VLC and then open it again, it doesn't remember the actual playlist. That will be clear. So in the media library, that's where it will remember it. And then, for example, when I start my show and I'm using the audio part of this, then I will just sort of drag those into the playlist. And now you can see I've got 14 tracks in here. So if you keep an eye down here, you'll see that these tracks all have their names on it and can get rearranged. So I could actually just delete the whole thing, and in a second it'll reset it. So it's just saying we've got 10 slots here. How do you want to create the playlist? And I might actually just dump in like 3 videos here, and then they've populated here. So I actually see the visual feedback of knowing that if I hit button number 2, it's going to be the New York drone video that we've got. And if you do purchase the profile download, I've got these 3 videos that you can just use as kind of ordering a playlist and have some sort of 30 to 40 second media clips in there so you can test out playing things. All right, so we need to go through the settings. I'm just going to jump back to this. So again, you can be following along at davidjoshua4.com/production/VLC-install is where all of these instructions are going to be in written form. So we've done the page jump, we've configured Companion, and now we're going to configure VLC. And there are a bunch of things that we need to work our way through. Okay, so first of all, let's go to Preferences. So you can go here, or Command comma is the one that we've got there. And that's going to bring up the Preferences page here. And this is all on the website, so you can see the settings there. The main thing that we're checking here is enabling HTTP web interface, and this is where I've typed in that VLC password. So if you change that in the web page for Companion as before, then you need to make sure that is updated here. And something I think is good with VLC is like every time you make a change on a page, hit save, and then you can go Command comma again. I have found that if you go through and you set all of these settings, and then you click on the advanced features of show all, which I'll get to, and then you go save, then it doesn't actually forget some and you got to go back and do it. So in the Preferences, under interface, choose what you want. I like it dark as an interface, and then we've got playback behavior. I've got it to do nothing in terms of controlling external music players, just in case on that computer you're running another application and sending audio out somewhere else. That's the way I have that set up. Under audio, I have that enabled, obviously. And then video is enabled, and then these ones are all unchecked. I've turned off window decorations just because you can get a clean kind of picture-in-picture. And I'm just going to mute this. And so if I go full screen here, but stop that. Oops, sorry. And play that, and I'm going to go not full screen and make this small. So you can see I can actually move this video around. If I turn off the window decorations, then you don't have that. And you can use this more of like a picture-in-picture where I could resize that and make it, gotta get this somewhere where I can actually see it. Hang on. Just scroll that down. You can do a little mini picture-in-picture down here so you get an idea of how that looks. Float on top if you want that to sit over all your applications. I don't do that normally because if I want to have Chrome up or that kind of thing, then I want it to sort of sit behind it. The two important things here are starting in full screen. Don't use the native full screen mode. Otherwise, when you are, okay, we did that thing. I gotta jump back across. That was an example of the auto trigger that is turned on. Let's turn those off. Okay, come back to the video. Starting in full screen mode and not using native full screen mode for the Mac, because if you've got a multiple desktop, and just say this one is the one that's pushing out to your ATEM for playback, but you're doing some work in this window, when you hit play on the VLC, it's going to push it into that window. So that's where you have to uncheck that, and it will always, by default, go to whatever screen you've got connected. I've got 3 here, so I can choose which one. I've set screen 1. I mean, it'd be helpful if there was a little more detail in there, but you got to kind of like pick which one it is. Yeah. Video, what's next? enable on-screen display, we want to turn this off. Otherwise, we're going to have the file name is going to turn up over the top of the video there. And the other thing that I've got is turning off hardware decoding here, because depending on your computer, you might get like a scrambled video at the front of it, and that's been one way of like getting rid of that. Okay, so we're going to save that. This is where it's a good idea to like quit VLC and then open it again, because these changes won't actually go through until you quit VLC and reopen it. Go back to preferences. Then we've got the more advanced stuff, which is click on this show all tab down here. And we've got two things under input, no, not that one. See, there's so much stuff going here. Interface, main interface, Mac OS. And so the settings here, again, I'm just running a dark interface. I think it was the full screen controller, this one, turning off full screen controller. Otherwise, when you go into full screen, it will show the little navigation bar. So we want to make sure that is off. These are the things that are very important to get right and to test a number of times before you do a live stream, because you know, you push a video full screen and then you've got that little control over the top. You don't want that. And I think that's that for that. And then under playlists, no, playlist? Yeah, under playlist, not this one, just playlist, is all of these options. I have them all unchecked. The main one is play and pause. If you were to check play and pause, then it would play a video through, and when it gets to the last frame, it would pause it and not do anything. So you might want that if you don't want your videos to roll on to the next one, and it'll just be a freeze frame at the end. But I've developed a trigger that would actually pause it and switch you back shots. So I don't use that one. And this doesn't work with music, obviously, because if I've got 5 tracks in a music playlist and I want them to circle through, then when it gets to the end of the first music track, it's just going to stop. So that's something you need to be aware of in terms of the playback behavior that is going on there. All right, I think that is everything there on the website. I've got screenshots of this, so you can jump through that and take a look at that. Advanced preferences, ATEM input control. All right, so the next one is ATEM settings. So this Stream Deck profile is designed to work with an ATEM. It can be ATEM Mini, Mini Pro ISO, Extreme, Extreme SDI, 2ME, any type of ATEM. And even not ATEM, you could use this with OBS, or even just for video playback in a conference where you just want to play back video into a room. It doesn't have to be ATEM specific, but I do have a couple of buttons in here that are for the ATEM, which can help you with your switching and streaming as we go along. So by default on my profile, I've used input number 7. That's probably mainly because that was developed around the Extreme, and I'm using H2R graphics on 8, and so I'm using VLC and the desktop on 7. If you have an ATEM Mini, though, you'd want to update this to number 4 or 3 or something like that. So we're going to show you how to do that. So if you're not familiar with it, under ATEM software control, you've got your switcher panel, and then you've got your audio panel down here. And you can see I've labeled my track to be VLC. So under this gear icon, under labels, I've got my input, and my input number 7, my long name is 7VLC, and my short name is just VLC. And that's important. We'll get back to this later, because that label VLC is going to help us with our triggers so that we can know which channel we're targeting. So you would label your channel, whatever VLC number that you are putting it into. Maybe you would update it to 4. Hit save. And then we're going to go back over to Companion. And we're going to go to our profile, which I installed under page 30. And where are we? Down here. So this button number 30, you can see the button number here. Page 30, button 30 is where I've put this. I've got the ATEM is reading the short name 7. If I change this to 6, for example, see it's got Pro M, which is my, I've got a components monitor coming back from my ATEM Mini Pro, is doing the secondary stream out here as the backup to YouTube. So this is where you would change that. Maybe you would change that to ATEM 4. ATEM short _ 4 is for like an ATEM Mini. And that's going to be change your name there. I'm going to keep it at 7 because that's what I've got. And then the only other things you need to change are under the press action, we're changing the input mix option here to be VLC. So you would just jump it back to number 4. And the same thing with this long press here. You change it to number 4. You can skip over the release actions. And then under feedback, you just want to change the input from 7 to 4 or whatever you want. 7 to 4 and 7 to 4. So that would set up a whole button so that you can actually control the ATEM's audio on and off. Or as I was saying before, if you long press it, that is going to push that audio track into audio forwards video so that you could have someone previewing audio, like previewing videos before they're queued, so in a preview monitor, and then when they're pushed live, because it's in the program tally, the audio would come through. So that way you're not getting random audio coming into your stream when you're just previewing something in the background. And turn this one back on for the moment. So that's how you would set up that one. Next thing we'll take a look at is companion triggers auto in and out. So this is kind of a way you can use VLC with a sort of hyperdeck function. So when you cut to the VLC input on the ATEM, that is going to auto play. And then when it gets to the end of the video, it is going to automatically transition back into whatever you have in the preview monitor. And then it's going to pause VLC so that you don't keep on playing. So you will find that under the, what was I saying here? Here we are up here. The auto in and the auto out. So these are buttons that turn on and off these triggers. So if you don't want them to run before, I think you saw early in the stream I had it turned on and I was showing you something and then it triggered it across. So you can turn that off if you just want it to be VLC playing and doing its thing. But if we turn them on like that, they will light up. And let's take a look at where that is affecting it. So under this triggers tab, unfortunately I can't export this for you at the moment because you can't do that within Companion. Maybe in a later version of Companion, it's something that I could include in the package to download. But for the time being, we've actually got to build this manually. And we'll take a look at how that is doing. So to start with, we go to the triggers tab. I'm going to add a new trigger down here like that. I'm just going to X out of this and go back to the one that I've already built. So the VLC auto in, which I've got in all caps, we need to write that name, VLC space auto space in. That's going to be the name that we're targeting. And then the type of feedback, the type of the condition is going to be a feedback condition. And then under here is you'd go check variable value like that. And that would throw up this command. And then the one that I'm looking for here is the label of input active on program bus ME1. So under here, I would type label of input, there we go. This is also assuming that you have an ATEM module installed. If you don't have the ATEM module installed, then this is not going to populate. But you can see I can click on that. If we go over to connections, if you don't have an ATEM module installed, type in ATEM under connections and you would go add connection and that will add in a connection there. Let's jump back over to triggers. Okay, so we've set our, basically we're saying we want to monitor what is on the program bus. And the operation should equal, and the value should equal VLC. So if you remember back in here, under our ATEM software control, we set up a label for our channel to be VLC, and we're using a short name here, VLC. We save that. I'm just going to cancel that, get back to here. And so that's looking for this variable VLC, and that's why that needs to be that one. And then under the action, so when it sees VLC in the program, what we want it to do is play. So we would go VLC to show the options for the VLC module, and we're going to do play. And we want to do play here, not play pause, because if you cut into a video and then cut out of a video and cut back into a video, it's going to run that play command. And if it's already playing, then it's going to pause it. So whereas if it's already playing and you hit play again, nothing happens. It just keeps on playing, so you don't affect your video stream. But that's why we've got play instead of play pause. Okay, you'll hit save there. And then you have this trigger here, which under your buttons, if I click on this auto in button, this is where we've got this action is actually, you can enable or disable triggers, and I've selected VLC auto in. And now let's take a look at the auto out, which has got a little more steps in it here. So back to triggers, we're gonna look at VLC auto out under edits. Okay, so I've given it the name VLC auto out. And again, it's a feedback condition. And down here is where you would search for these things, which is check variable value. So you would click on that. Just gonna delete that one for now, and we'll use what we've got. So I am checking the variable value, playing time left equals, and then in brackets here, this is the VLC semicolon R underscore hours, minutes, seconds. So I'm looking for R underscore, which is the remaining time, in the full 6-digit amount of time. And then that has to equal 2 seconds. So that's 00 colon, or semicolon, 00 semicolon 02. If you do this at 1 or 0, you're not leaving the system enough time to kind of react to it. So the caveat here in terms of an auto fade across is that you don't want mission critical audio in the last 2 seconds of the video, because we're going to have to trigger this at 2 seconds, and then we have an auto fade of 1 second in the way that I've set it up. And then at 1 second, we want to pause the video so we still have a second buffer before VLC is going to jump onto the next track or whatever was set up in the preferences that you saw before. Okay, so then the other thing that I want to do is, because if our videotape operator is doing this in the background, they're queuing things up, the companion is still listening to this. So if they go through from video 1 to video 2, then they're going to trigger this in the system. So I also want to make sure that we've got ATEM tally. So if this command will only run if that channel is in the program tally. So the command here is ATEM tally, and you'll see there's an ATEM tally program here. And I would select the channel that I want to be in program. So I want to make sure that my VLC channel is in program. And delete that again. Okay, so now I've set it up so that when VLC hits 2 seconds and it's in the program, then we're going to take an action. And that's where we have this down the bottom here. So the action that we're going to do is, first of all, an ATEM, we can type in auto, and we get ATEM perform an auto transition. And then we're going to do VLC, the pause and resume. And so the reason we're doing pause and resume here is because this is where we actually want it to freeze frame on that, so that we have a clear image rather than, I mean, if you wanted to, you could make it stop and it would clear the frame entirely. Otherwise, you know, choose what you want to do there. So I'm just going to delete that one and that one. So it's on the ATEM mini line, you've only got one mix effect. If you had a like Constellation or something, you might have multiple mix effects, so you could choose if you want to target a different one. And then on I don't have relative delay turned on, but I could, that doesn't matter. On the VLC, I've added in a 1000 millisecond delay so that when we hit the fade across is taking a second. And so I don't want VLC to pause before that is allowed to happen. So that's why I have a 1000 millisecond pause in there. So, all right, so they're turned on. And let's take a look at, so I've got my desktop view here, and I've got my VLC playlist here. So this is the sort of thing where I might actually move this out to another monitor. So I could be looking at it on my, let's go back to here. I could be looking at it over here. So I have a secondary monitor where I'm actually behind the scenes monitoring the playlist. And then on my view here, let's just pretend that this part of the screen is the full screen video playback as we work our way through it. So now if I wanted to jump straight into the New York City video, I could hit that. Remember I had the full screen off, so I need to turn full screen on. And my audio is actually off because I didn't want it to take it over. But if I hit 100, then I should be able to do that. Let me just make sure that I've got this turned on. VLC is up, and I turned off my ATEM, just because, there we go. Let's go back to here. Okay, so now I can hit, here we go. So my audio is on, we're playing through the video. So across, I think you can still hear me. I'm gonna turn this, okay, the point of this long press on this 50 button here is so that hopefully you can find a level which, and you can adjust this if you want, is you can talk over the top of a video. So let me know if this is still too loud. It's coming to the end, so I've got 7 seconds here. And got my little, gotta get my mouse off the screen. And it's coming across. Going back. Okay, so we've transitioned across because this shot is what I had in preview. So for the moment, I'm going to turn off these ones. And let's go to, I'm going to go back to my super source shot. So Coastal USA. Or if I want to jump into the next one, the next video, it's where if you're behind scenes, you could queue someone 3, maybe I want to hit Q and it'll jump back to 1. So I could just be queuing up the next video and then I can hit play. I could do, I need to put something else in my preview. Let's just put cam A and I could just fade across to me, back to my camera or fade into the shot. I could turn off the music or turn on the music. And I can jump through the tracks like that. And I'm showing the time going up, like how much time has elapsed, and then how much time is coming back. So I could skip ahead, or I could skip back, or I could do it by seconds here if you want to find a particular spot. You know, maybe you want to do it just at 12, 16, 15. Okay, so we're going to do it at 12 seconds. And you'll notice here in this remaining time as well as the playback, I've built the feedback so that when you hit 10 seconds, it's going to change to a highlighted yellow and red, just to give you a visual cue that it's about to end and you need to focus. So if we hit play, come under 10 seconds here, and we can see the remaining time there. Okay, now let me see. Hopefully I'm not going to do anything crazy here, but I'm going to go to my multi-view. All right, this is my multi-view that I'm looking at, just so I can show you the preview. So up the top here, preview 1 is where my preview monitor is, and then this main view is going to cascade in infinity because it's programmed putting it back into itself. But I just wanted to give you an idea of if you turn on auto in and auto out. So if I skip ahead, so maybe not that far. So we are, I think this is right, because I've got this multi-view playing through. So now my auto 876, I got this black. I shouldn't put this black on because it confuses me, but 3, 2, 1, and then it's going to push me across. I think I did that. And it's paused the video there. Also, it means if I go to, say I queue up this first video, this is going to get very confusing with all of that. I might just bring it back to program, and we will go to this view. Okay, so also with auto in, I'm trying to see if I can show you preview, but I didn't think I can. So in preview, at the moment, I have this shot of me, just full screen. So imagine that, and what you're looking at the moment is super source, but it would be otherwise VLC. And so when we get to, when I hit cut, that's what I'm saying. Okay, sorry. So I need to put in my VLC, I'm going to put VLC into preview, and then I'm going to be hitting cut down here. I'm just going to jump back over to VLC. And okay, so VLC is queued in preview. And now when I either cut to preview, or if I just do a program cut to VLC, it should trigger the video. All right, there you go. So you've essentially like cut to your input number 7 here, and it is playing the video through. And I'm just going to skip ahead. And I've got auto out on, so it should transition back to, I'm just going to put my camera in here. We got, what do we got here? Let's jump ahead 6 seconds and let it roll, and it's going to fade across. So that is how you would do an auto fade using VLC. So that should help you run a live stream where you don't have to time it and you can focus more on chatting to people. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. All right, Q&A. Any questions, anyone? Let's have a look at things. Just gonna get myself set up here. And how much time we got left? We have 18 minutes left, and then this channel is gonna redirect to John Barker's session today. So if you want to stick around for that at the top of the hour, then you can continue on your live streaming journey as we go through this. So I'm just gonna jump in here and catch up on all the comments that I've not been looking at in the last 40 minutes. So hopefully everything's been good with the audio, because I just wanted to get a really concrete tutorial down there for you, and hopefully that helps. All right, let's get rid of that time, and let's look at the questions. MT, VLC is a bit tricky to set up for Stream Deck, but it worked well for me, so hopefully that works. G'day to everyone here. I'm going to skip through this a bit. Great to see so many people in the chat. And we've got a good number of viewers. Excellent. Okay, question here from John. How does this integrate with your existing DJF Extreme app? It all looks very similar to your existing VLC offering, apart from some bells and whistles. This will be part of that at some point. It's probably going to be a little while before I can integrate that into the packages that I sell, which have the full switching control. Eventually we'll find its way in there. It takes a bit of time for me to go through and individually recreate that. It's a very manual process, which I don't love, and that can slow me down a bit. But it will get there. But at the moment, I just wanted to create a VLC offering that if someone's not even running ATEM, or if they just want the VLC thing, they can grab that and get going with that. But it's a great question there. How many pages would you need? Just one page. So this is made to be able to import into one page, and I've also made it so there's no reference buttons, so it's not referencing any other back-end page, because I wanted it portable. So the other thing about this is, once you have this VLC profile, you can actually import it again. So what I showed you in terms of how you would go through and import it, and the module name is VLC. The second time you would import it and you would just update that to a new instance and make it like VLC2. And then within Companion, that will give you a second module, and you can control different computers. And you can just kind of keep doing that again and again. So you could have 7 different, Hyperdeck VLCs that are all individually referenced, and then you could just jump between them and control them as you need to. So you might want to use that on a Pi or just some other older laptop, and maybe that's just like running background graphics on loop, but you want some level of control to be able to change the video from like one loop to the next, and that's where you would re-import the profile and do that again. Eric, good to see you here. Pretty cool crossfade between the cam and VLC. Yeah, it is nice to be able to switch that on and off too, because there's times where maybe you actually don't want that manually. You want to do that manually. So that's where I built those buttons in, so you can just like turn it off if it's something that's gonna get in the way of your live stream rather than help you with that. Keith, good to have you here. Deep journey of VLC control. Very cool control, David. Is the VLC package including the Extreme Pro package for $199? It will be at some point. Like I was saying before, it's for me to add that in. I've actually got to go through all the packages and like re-upload them and change them. And I'm actually in the process of rebuilding my profile for the ATEM 2ME Extreme. Just going to turn this up. I have my fan on in the background. And so I'm reconfiguring all of my profile. So that's where I just don't want to like double up on the work, and I want to make sure we get that done. Is this to avoid hyperdecks? It's not actually. Like, so for the last 2 years, I've not had a hyperdeck, and I actually bought a hyperdeck a month ago as part of buying the 2ME, and I may buy a web presenter, and we'll see. I wanted to have a hyperdeck for recording high quality, and then also for some video playback if I need it. But for what I do on these live streams, and even like a lot of conference type things, I find VLC much easier to use because you're sitting on a computer workstation where you can have files. So if your client comes to you and they've got something on a thumb drive, or they just email you a random video in a random codec, you can just download that, have that on your computer, drag and drop it into the playlist, and then it will populate in there as a button that you can press to push that out to programs. So it makes it very easy to just get things going very quickly without having to, like with the hyperdecks, you have to encode it to a certain format and test it and that kind of stuff. So I do that if there's like a big conference coming up and I have a very set playlist and I want to make sure that those things are all queued. But for things on the fly and even just like daily use, it's great. And then it's not even just video, it's also audio. Like I've been showing with my show, I've been doing this all as a, it's gonna out of this. Just gonna pull up my VLC, not that one. Just gonna pull this one up. Sorry, I'm gonna try and find this screen here. So under my videos here, if I was to put this back in, like these music tracks, drag them in, and that is basically like an audio on the back end that is running a session break music and that kind of stuff, or intro music as I've got in my one. Yeah. All right. Actual Kevin, as opposed to fake Kevin, says, what tells the ATEM when to auto take in the time as the video ends? So I just explained that it should be chapter markers that you can go back and take a look at. But briefly, if you go to the triggers tab, this is where the video ends. The VLC out here, it's the playing time left. So the way this works, for example, if you go to buttons, under variables, and then under VLC, you actually get a list of all the variables that are going here. And so you can see my playing time left is 0 because I don't have anything loaded. But if I was to, I'm just gonna put the volume down to 50% just to hit play, playing music here. And I'll get rid of this. You'll see the playing time left here is 2:27. So Companion is just looking at that number and trying to get it to match whatever I set, which I said was 2 seconds. So as if I'm fast forwarding through here, we're down to 1 second, 55, 44. So you'll see this number here. That's what it's looking for. And so when it sees that, it's going to jump across. Just gonna hit stop there. Download it there. Cool. What else we got? Peter, great question. How does, bring it back here, bring it back to, where are we? How does VLC compare to something like PlayoutBee? So I downloaded PlayoutBee, I don't know, when it came out like a year or so ago. And I have a Pi, I have 2 Pis actually. So I had one running Companion, one running PlayoutBee, and I don't know, I never quite got it running. I think I was waiting for another update, which was going to change a few things on the Pi. And I don't know, in terms of ease of use, I found the VLC on a Windows and Mac is kind of much easier in terms of being able to fire up an application and drag and drop things in and move it around and reorder a playlist. And so that's worked for what I'm doing in these live streams and also for client jobs. I think PlayoutBee would be great for like having a loop. Like if you've got a super source video and you want that on loop, and you don't want to set up a whole computer for that, but you want maybe something in a rack that is just serving up video, that would work quite well. But yeah, I just found, I don't know, it just didn't, it was like another couple of steps in my workflow, and VLC just had a lot less resistance. So, you know, maybe I should look at it again, but it was, it's been a little while since I've used that. Keith says, sounds much faster on VLC, and the audio would be nice. Yeah, I'm using this for audio on every show. That's what I'm using for Playback. And good to know we got the actual Kevin in the house. Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, we're almost done here. So if you've got any other questions, let me know. We've got a couple of minutes before we close out and we pass the baton to John to take us away. So if you have any last minute questions, I guess we could jump back over to let's take a look at YOLO Instream. Here we go. Oh, that worked nicely. So the guys at YoloLiv have sent me the YOLO Instream, which is the vertical version of the YoloBox Pro. So it's the very first time I'm testing it out. I am curious to see how that is working. I've been able to figure my way around it a little bit. Basically bringing in an HDMI source from this program, and then here I can actually rotate it 90 degrees, and that's putting the video in there. And then under here, that's where I have a cutout PNG, which is overlaid over the top. I've actually noticed it was a 1080 by 1920 vertical graphic, but it doesn't quite fill the edges. That's what I've noticed there. And then we can take the graphic on and off, just to tell people to like join the conversation at YouTube, because I haven't quite figured out the, you know, managing YouTube comments as well as Instagram ones. And you got to like swipe up here, and then there's a button here to go full screen so you can actually see the app. And we got a couple of people on there, and I guess we can wave. No, did they wave? We're waving to them. So, oop. There we go. Wave. I don't know if I'm like not trying to press this, and there we go. Wave. I feel like that's a little clunky. But yeah, that's how that is. That's how that is going. Let's get rid of the double picture here. A couple more questions here. Keith says, I just added a PlayoutBee on a Pi and likes it for MP4 files. It works great with updates. PC upload is great. PlayoutBee on a Pi. I thought the Pi was stuck at like version something 0.3, and there was a 9.4 update that was done for Mac that, I don't know. Anyway, I only had a Pi license, and so I didn't take it much further from that. Eric says, nice preset shot for the YOLO Instream. Very smooth. That is something that I've got coming up in the works as well. So I wanted to get this VLC one out, and I'm also working on another kind of product which will find its way into the full packages for the ATEMs, but it's what I'm calling DJF Q. And so it's how I'm actually running this whole show, so that I have sort of chapters that are demarcated, and it's doing automatic YouTube chapter markers for me. So at the end, I can upload that text, and you can find where in the live stream all of those VLC tutorial points were. So yeah, I would say we're almost out of time. Again, do a time check. Remaining 4 minutes. What else we got? we've got MT says, is also running PlayoutBee on a Pi 8 gig on an SSD, but find out even I set up the GPU to max it, couldn't handle the 1080p vids as well, whereas 720 worked fine, but that was 6 months ago, so maybe there was an update that fixed it. Yeah, I think it was just some of the web interface was a bit clunky, and there might have been or maybe that was VLC, I can't remember. It was like a jump between tracks, and I didn't want that black frame. So yeah, maybe we should take another look at that PlayoutBee, because it is a nice option to be able to have a Raspberry Pi running video playback rather than a whole Hyperdeck, which is $600-700. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look. Any other questions before we get going? Couple minutes. We're gonna get over to John's show. So I'm gonna close it out there. Hope that was helpful. Again, if you want to take a look, davidjoshuaford.com is where my the VLC instructions will be. If you want to take a look at that, and it was good to have you on today's show, and hopefully that is something that you can take away in terms of how you build video playback and audio playback as well into your live streaming. All right, have a good week. Bye.